My job is to create jobs.
President Obama was a job creator from day one.
It's a plan that will trigger the creation of millions of new jobs for Americans.
More jobs for construction workers, more jobs for teachers, more jobs for veterans, more jobs for young people.
Yippee! President Obama says government will create jobs, and he wants all this new spending to do that. His Republican opponents say they oppose the extra spending, but they also say they'll create jobs, and they've done it before.
We created 1 million jobs in the state of Texas.
We added tens of thousands of jobs.
When I was Speaker, we added 11 million jobs.
We became #1 in job creation.
As I watch the Republican debates and hear comments like that, I get annoyed. I think there's a candidate missing who I wish were there. He's a former governor who says, I did not create a single job while I was governor. And that's a funny thing to say when you're running for president. That former governor is here to explain now. Gary Johnson, for 8 years, you were governor of New Mexico, and you did not create a single new job?
Not one single job, no. Government doesn't create jobs. And as a matter of fact, John, there would have been 1,200 fewer state employees over an 8-year period while I was governor, something that had never happened before.
But you have all these politicians saying, I'll create jobs. Why do you say what looks like a stupid thing to say for someone running for president?
Well, you know, when it comes to the job creation data, arguably I might have the best record on that. But as I say now...
But let me explain that before you move on, that this is true, that people have compared the records, the job growth in various states of all the people running for president on the Republican ticket, and by some measure it's different time periods. It's hard to compare it exactly, but New Mexico had the greatest job growth, you say, because you cut government.
Since I controlled all the boards and commissions, rules and regulations got better on a daily basis. Common sense ruled the day, and because I vetoed legislation that was going to make business worse or make it more onerous for a lot of businesses, business went to bed at night knowing that the environment was not going to get any worse because I was going to be in there and I wasn't going to allow that to pass.
And you would veto bills, some 700 plus bills, and that ticked off your Republican legislature and the Democrats in particular. And then he would make statements I don't often hear politicians say, like this.
Man is superior to government and should remain master over it, not the other way around.
Voters in New Mexico seem to like that. He got reelected, but much of the political class didn't. Look at those angry, sour faces. You ticked off the political class in your state.
I did tick off the political class, but I did get reelected in a state that was 2-to-1 Democrat. So I think the final arbiter, the voters, decided that things were better. Things were good.
All right. New Mexico is 2-to-1 Democrat. Republican Arizona is right next door. They're both physically similar states. I think of them as deserts. And in the 30s, the population of New Mexico was greater than that of Arizona.
That's correct. And since then, the population of Arizona has doubled that of New Mexico. And really, it was a political divergence, one of control as opposed to really more free market, Arizona being the more free market.
And Arizona said, hey, business, come in, we'll let you build, we'll let you do stuff. And New Mexico said,
we want to control this environment. We want to protect people from bad doers. We want to make sure business contributes. We don't want any bad actors, and nobody wants bad actors. No one wants bad actors, but the marketplace, I think, takes care of that better than anyone else.
And since the 30s, the population of Arizona has grown so much it's now about double that of New Mexico, which was bigger.
That's correct.
All right. Over the 8 years you served, you cut 1,000 state government jobs. But still, there was 11% job growth in New Mexico.
How did that possibly happen? I mean, this is what I would always say. Government doesn't create jobs. I think I contributed to an environment where there was certainty. And when there's certainty, I think jobs come about as a result of that.
All government can do is take from one group of people and give it to another. that creates jobs over here, but the money taken from the private economy means the private sector has then less to create with. Yaron Brook, you're nodding. I think that means you agree with me. That's Yaron Brook of the Ayn Rand Institute. But David Callahan, our second guest tonight from the progressive group Demos, says Brook and I are just wrong. So we're wrong. Government can spend and create jobs?
Well, government certainly can spend and create jobs. I mean, the problem we have right now, John, is that consumers don't have the money to buy stuff, which means that corporations and businesses aren't hiring. It's not that corporations don't have enough money. They're sitting on record profits. They have lots of cash. They're not hiring because there's not consumer demand.
So if you give them stuff, doesn't that take it from these people?
Look, if government steps up, provide stimulus money to hire people, what we'll get is more people spending money in this economy, more hiring, and we get that virtuous cycle going. We're not talking about permanent government job creation. We're talking about stimulus kickstarting this economy.
That Keynesian catalyst.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to assume that you can tax the people that are actually working and give the money to people who are not working, and somehow this creates economic activity. You're destroying as much by taking from those that are productive, that are working, that are creating. Much more you're destroying.
These companies are sitting on the money.
They are sitting on the money, and that's the real question. And I agree. I mean, the economy's a mess. People are not consuming, but more importantly, people are not producing. They're not investing. And the real question is, why? And that's what we need to solve, is why are businesses sitting on the money? And they're sitting on the money because they're worried about what government is going to do tomorrow. They're worried about taxes going up. They're worried about the piles and piles of regulation.
Well, that's why I have all this stuff around here, that my prop, that these boxes, 80,000 pages, are what were added to the Federal Register just this year. Every day, the bureaucracy comes out with another book like this.
If you ask businesses why they're not hiring, they don't point to regulation, they don't point to uncertainty, they don't point to high taxes. What they point to is the lack of consumer demand. We've got to get out of this trough
This is,
here.
again, a Keynesian fallacy. The Keynesian fallacy is that economy is driven by consumers. Economy is not driven by consumers. When people have jobs, when they're comfortable about the future, they buy stuff. The economy is driven by production, by creating stuff, by building stuff. When businesses invest, they buy stuff, they consume. That's what really powers an economy. If we can get businesses confident in the future of the U.S. economy, they will start investing. And the only way to do that is to get government off their backs.